Welcome to Two Bitches in a Broom podcast. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode as we dive into the topic for the week of Akashic Records, what it is, how you access it, what's the purpose of it, and how it ties into the shit that you're doing now. So, yeah, fun topic. I think this is gaining popularity, at least if I'm leading with what my guides are telling me, because like we were talking about before, every time I ask, it's Akashic Records, talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, at least in my uh experience, a lot. I'm old, so I've been doing it for a minute. It seems to go through cycles,
Mm-hmm.
where it will come into people's awareness, they'll start talking about it, and then it'll fade in the background, and then it comes up. And it's about every 5 years that seems to happen,
Mm-hmm.
at least um in my awareness. That's what seems to happen. But yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the Akashic record? Since I'm the definition girl, it is kind of like this compendium of universal events. The thoughts, words, emotions, intents ever to have occurred in the past, present, or future. And I'm like a super nerd, so just bear with me. The Akashic, that word actually comes from the Sanskrit word Akasha, which means I'm sorry, sky.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a reference to the fifth element in classical Indian cosmology. It represents the essence of all things. So, fun fact, I don't know, I'm a nerd.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
always kind of like stuck in my head. And I'm like, oh, that's like the perfect word for it. Yeah. It makes sense
Mm-hmm.
what you know,
Yeah.
the origin of it. You're like, oh, that's like the perfect word. I didn't know about you, but when I first came across it, I'm like, why is it called that?
Right. I thought the same thing when I first came across it of what is the Akashic Records? That's such a
Yeah,
specific word, but then when you learn the understanding and the origin, and if you look into it,
yeah,
yeah, it makes total sense
yeah,
why it's
yeah.
called that.
And that's because I am like that. I don't know. I'm the super nerd. I gotta know everything. And I'm like, why is it called? There's gotta be a reason. What is the origin?
Hmm.
You know,
Right.
you know. The geek in me. But yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So
We appreciate the geek in you, because I rely on you for the actual definition of things. It's like I know it in my noggin, but I can't regurgitate it out sometimes.
yeah.
So I appreciate it.
I mean, like
But
in the most layman terms, this this plane, is said to be the higher dimension of consciousness of energies. It's where all these records are stored. So, like, for everybody, if you can just imagine like this cosmic library or this universal database that holds the imprints of every soul's journey through time, I think that most people will understand that, you know?
mm-hmm. Yes, I do. And it's interesting when this topic comes up. I know a popular question is can anyone access their own or the Akashic records or their own Akashic records? Um, and I do, I feel that anyone can access their own. But I'm also very cautious when you're seeking something of self because you're invested.
Yep.
So I've heard a long time ago when I was first going through what the Akashic records are and stuff like that. I've heard talk that only certain individuals with certain abilities can access it on your behalf and stuff like that. And I just don't resonate with that.
Mhm.
I do feel that anyone has access to their records. That's just my personal feeling about it. But
Mhm.
I'm also, proceed with caution, because when you're emotionally invested in seeking something, it could misconstrue
Mhm.
what you receive. How do you feel about that?
I have like mixed, well,
Mm-hmm.
first off, it depends on where your belief stems from.
Right.
So if you believe that you are a limitless being, and then you say, but I don't have the ability to connect to it, then you just limited yourself. So there's
Right.
that. Right.
Right. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, but I also agree that when you are seeking information for self, first, let me say that I have so, like, my calendar is full of professionals who are in the same business who wants a reading from me because that's part of the package. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you are invested in self, which you are, right? So
Right. Right.
when you go to get the outcome, it can be skewed because you're like, oh no, I'm not that, or oh no, that's not going to happen. And
Right.
oh, you want the highest and best good for yourself. So your left brain's going to kick in and it's going to skew all that information. So
Mm-hmm.
can you? I think that you would have to be extremely detached from self in order to do an accurate portrayal. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's just my opinion. It's been, I mean, I'm always invested in self, always.
Right.
I want
Right.
what's best for me,
Yeah.
you know? So, like, if I'm doing a reading and it comes out like, oh, this, shitty thing is going to occur, and to be like, the fuck it is. My brain's going to go, no, it's going to be great, and then you're going to be
Right. Right.
surprised, like, wait a minute, how?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
because you want
Yeah.
what's best for self. You're not going to want to
Oh,
recognize,
sure.
you know?
Yeah. See, I take it kind of in the same mindset as like pendulum work.
Yeah,
So with pendulum, if you're asking for yourself, you are absolutely invested into that outcome. You could skew or shift the answer that you're getting, because it's really challenging to remain unbiased when you're asking for yourself. So I think of kind of the Akashic records the same way. Like what you're saying, we're always going to be invested in our own self. And obviously, there's what we need
yeah,
and what we want.
yeah. I mean, I say it all
And
the time. If you lose your keys, no problem. I'll tell you exactly where.
yeah.
If I lose my keys, I'm screwed. I have no
Hmm.
idea. I haven't got a clue. I will literally go
Right.
to my spouse or my older child and I will say, ask me where the keys are at so I can locate them because I want them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I have no idea where I put them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
you're skewed. When it comes to self, you're gonna be skewed.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
think the only time I ever played around, let's say, with Akashic records uh, was when it was a point where I had this experience of vertigo and extreme anxiety, and it was only going over the overpasses on bridges and stuff like that, and flying, and it came out of nowhere, and I really was like, what's happening to me? This is so weird. And somebody, an old colleague of mine in the metaphysical world, uh, brought this to my attention of it could have been somewhere in a past life experience or another timeline experience at this phase of your age range. you
Mm-hmm.
experienced something traumatic and your soul is remembering it. Because I mean, like literally, I was going over the on ramp stuff on the freeway, and I'm I feel like I am a NASCAR driver at heart when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
But when I'm by myself, I my destiny should have been a NASCAR driver. But going over all of a sudden, I mean, my knuckles were white because I was clenching so hard and tight. And then going up and flights, and I'm fly all the time. And it was extreme vertigo, anxiety, fear all of a sudden out of nowhere. So when she brought that up, that's when I started to, well, let's explore why, because I'm
Mhm.
nosy. So I wanted to know, but I wasn't necessarily attached to it because it was not, has nothing to do with right now kind of thing. It wasn't anything for my future. I just wanted to understand why all of a sudden I had this thing, this phase happen.
Mhm.
But again, going into it, ensuring I'm just for knowledge purposes, just exploring where this is coming from, because I already did the whole, analytical checklist of anything going on in my life right now, anything causing this, do I need a therapist? Like,
Yeah.
kind of am I sleeping well, eating well, is everything, how am I feeling? I did all of that,
Mhm.
and nothing came of it. Like, nothing feels out of whack in that area. So I don't feel that I was attached to it in that way where I could go and be, oh, well, maybe that didn't happen. I was just like, oh, my motto in life. Oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Oh, let's see how that was. But I have had people ask if they can access their Akashic records for themselves. And because they're seeking to know what's coming in the future for them, or how this is going to turn out, or what their, the age old question, why am I here?
Right.
Kind of thing. And it could very well be something that you really aren't ready to hear or want to hear.
Mhm.
And I feel like that can mess you up.
We'll be right back after this short break.
In the hustle and bustle of modern life, finding time for spiritual growth can be challenging. But what if there was a way to reconnect with your inner self, to find peace and clarity amidst the chaos? Introducing the Shamanic Path, your guide to spiritual development and inner peace. At the Shamanic Path, we offer a range of online courses designed to nurture your spirit and elevate your consciousness. For those just beginning their spiritual quest, to the advanced practitioners looking to expand, we are here to support you on your journey every step of the way. Discover the power of your intuition, the beauty that comes with connecting, and the joy of self discovery. Embrace the journey to a more enlightened, balanced, and fulfilled life. Take that first step today. Visit theshamanicpaths.com and begin your journey.
Should you seek into
Yeah.
exploring this topic, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree. My Akashic experience, the first time that I visited it was laughable. Um, I really, I mean, looking back, I had this thought like nothing is beyond me. Again, if we're expansive beings, we have the ability to. So, yeah. And actually, my mentor was talking about it at the time, and he was encouraging me to visit. And experience this for myself and blah, 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 blah. So very young, very full of myself. And I go in because I just want to know what it's about. That's literally my intention. I just want to see what's going on, what's it about, So I go in, and there is a woman, an older woman that is standing there. There's just rows and rows of all of these books, just rows and rows and rows into this it looks like a very old English type of library. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And so I walk up, I give her my name. She gets the book down, she opens it, and what is your question? And I said, question? I don't have a question. I just want to know what it says.
Yeah.
She slammed the book and she said, do not come back here without a question. You're wasting time. And I was like sucked right out. And I was like, oh shit. Like I woke up and I was just like, oh shit. I had no, like for real. Like, oh, I'm like, I remember being so completely stunned from that experience that I was actually put off from revisiting it for a long time.
Right.
It
Because
was like
that
I was
wasn't
being
very love and light.
scolded. Yeah. It was like I was being scolded. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have no question. Why are you here? You're wasting
Right.
my time. And I was just like, I'm a bad noodle, it just took me a very long time to go back there. And I eventually did. I did go back several times, many times, because I'm nosy. And I want to know everything. So yeah, eventually I did. But yeah, so my number one recommendation for everybody, have a better purpose than I did.
See, I know like during my walk, you encourage to explore it and whatnot, but to have specific questions. And
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's those moments where I can think of 1,000 questions right now, but the minute I go, and I'm the type of person, unless I have a reason, I won't, that's just me. Unless I have a reason, I won't visit.
Yeah.
And
But
and
that's
then
why
every
I
time,
was so expressive, when
yeah,
I was teaching it, is like, I never went into my own backstory, but that's why I was so expressive. Have a question.
right,
Do not show up without a question. I
yeah,
went into my backstory, but that's the backstory. Like legitimately, it put me off so bad. It wasn't even funny. It was not even funny. How I was like, because I don't think I've ever been scolded in my entire metaphysical life at that point. And I was just like, that was not good. It was bad. My mentor's like,
yeah,
oh no, you have to have purpose. What was purpose? And I said,
right,
I wanted to see what, and I'm like,
everything, yeah.
and that's how my brain
See,
works.
I would have 1,000 questions, and then when I would sit and be like, okay, I'm gonna journey, I'm gonna have this experience, I'd come up with every question that I have. I would feel like, I mean, I don't know, it's not like that necessary for me to know,
Yeah.
or stuff like that. So I just wouldn't. It took me a while to actually formulate something to take and to go and seek out. And it was a similar experience for me with this massive library in the clouds. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain, but it was just like this ethereal
Yeah.
space, and it was loads and loads of just records. And it's funny, it was a older woman as well.
Yeah.
And you know, and I asked, I don't even remember what I asked
Like
anymore. I
everybody
just,
has the same story that I've ever heard.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only relate to what shamans have said to me, but
Hmm.
everybody has the same exact description. And that to me, like when you, and that's my science brain, when you have a bunch of people that all say
Right,
the
right,
same thing, then that's, a true experience.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And yeah, so I finally mustered up something to ask and had my experience. It was very much, I would agree with that. It was very much cut and dry.
Yeah.
Not like any other kind of journey I've had before prior to that moment.
Yeah.
Um, it was very much cut and dry and just no frills about it.
Mhm.
What is your question? Here is your answer.
Yep.
You know,
Next.
goodbye.
Yeah. That's how I felt. Yeah. And there
Yeah.
was so many times that, after that I would come and have questions, whether it was on a personal level or on a
Yeah.
global level, questions that I had. And it's always been that way. What is your
Yeah. Every
question?
single time.
Here is your
Yeah.
answer. Done. You know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's something very different when I do any Akashic work. I always feel like I'm sucked out. It's hard to describe, but it's
Hmm.
like you're just out of it very abruptly. It's not,
Yeah. It's not anywhere where you would reverse your journey back and
yeah,
make your way back into
yeah.
nothing like, I would say, in comparison, nothing like when you have a past life regression done
Oh, never.
and you know how you walk back in
Yeah,
and you're kind of coming back to. It's just
yeah,
very
yeah.
quick, so much so where I'm like, did that really happen?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because it was like, and scene,
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Uh,
So let's kind of touch on how accessing your Akashic records can actually help you in your current life. What would be a benefit of exploring this topic for someone's?
um, well, me personally, I believe that when you access the Akashic records, it can provide profound insights into your life purpose, karmic patterns, throughout all of your lifetimes, right? Same thing, you're repeating the
Mhm.
same thing. Soul contracts, um, you know,
Yeah.
uh, there's just, I know I sound like I'm um being like pie in the sky about it, but there's so much involved in there. Your life purpose, your relationships, healing, for your past lives, insights into those past incarnations that can reveal patterns, even
Hmm.
skills that you had, unresolved issues that are influencing your present life, your life purpose. It could be understanding your soul missions, the lessons that you intended for not only this time but for previous lifetimes,
Hmm.
relationships you have, the insight into the karmic connections with others and the roles that they play in your life, you know, um, and for healing, identifying and releasing um, blocks, trauma, limiting beliefs that are rooted
Yeah.
in those past experiences from previous lifetimes. You
Hmm. Right. Yeah,
So,
I'm really big on the healing of past lives and patterns
yeah,
with the Akashic records. I know it sounds all great for soul mission and that, and you can absolutely and stuff like that, but I I find it very useful area, especially if you feel stuck in this pattern that you can't seem to crack or understand the origin of it, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
I think Akashic records are very helpful for breaking through limiting beliefs and these patterns that we find ourselves stuck in, and understanding,
Yeah.
and especially if you're that kind of person that you've done the sessions, you've done the therapy, you've done all of these other things and you still find yourself in this loop. Maybe give the Akashic records a shot, because I found it to be very helpful in understanding patterns and breaking those, releasing those, and your karmic
Yeah.
connections,
I agree. I agree.
Mhm.
So shamans have a very specific way of connecting to the Akashic. And today I thought we would give you some steps on how you can venture into the field of finding out your own Akashic records. It is from a completely different, it's different techniques, but that is because you aren't shaman. So just in case any shamans are watching right now, that we have a different way of doing things. So the first thing I recommend, obviously, find a quiet space. Choose an
Mhm.
environment where you're not going to be disturbed. It could be a quiet room in your home. It could be outdoors. Doesn't matter. But where you're not going to be disturbed and it's quiet. That's the very, very first thing. The second thing is have a question. Make sure you have a question. Okay. Which is going to be setting the intention. So define your purpose right within yourself for
Mhm.
accessing the Akashic record. It could be for personal insight, healing, guidance, understanding past experiences,
Mhm.
whatever it can be. But make sure you set that before. Learn from me, friends. Learn from.
Don't
Okay.
get booted.
Yeah. And then the third step would be relaxing and centering yourself, deep breathing, meditation, maybe do some light stretching to center your mind and your body before you start doing this. Get into that calm, relaxed, and
Mhm.
then focused state.
Yes.
That's how I recommend that you begin that.
Yes.
Is there any specific way that you would recommend a meditation? Would you recommend like music or quiet, or how would you recommend?
We'll be right back after this short break.
I always recommend to do any kind of uh, chakra balancing or grounding meditation, because when you're going to do, especially if you're going to do, and this is just in my opinion, and when I guide to go into Akashics, if you're going to do something like this, we want to make sure that you are in the most balanced state that you can be, because that's my kind of mental way of being as unbiased as possible. So I would not recommend if you're, you know, had a rough day, you're going through a lot. It's just you have to get yourself in this centered state, like what Charlie is talking about. So I always would suggest, if it's sitting outside for a few minutes and listening to just music, meditation music or singing bowls or anything like that that you feel good with, take some time to do that. A chakra balancing meditation would be great. Guided meditation will pull you through each chakra and help you feel and connected to each one and balanced out when you're going to start something like this, just to ensure you're good, you're centered, you're as clear as possible, because we want to get the deepest insight. Because I'm like, if we're going to fucking do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
To get the deepest insight and to stay as passive as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step would be, it's a big step, would be speaking your invocation, okay, which is using a prayer. What you're going to do is request access to the Akashic records. And I'm just throwing this out there if everybody wants to like write this down or pause it or whatever. Maybe I'll throw it up on the screen. You can say, and again, use your words. Use what is comfortable for you. I am
Yes.
just sharing with you a way in which you can use, but please feel free to make this as comfortable for you. If it does not reside with you, do not, I repeat, do not do it. Okay. What I recommend is I call upon the masters, teachers, loved ones of the Akashic records. I ask for your guidance, your wisdom for the highest good. Please make this available to me that I may know my records and allow me to access the information I seek. That's simple. Okay. And once you have done that, the next step is where you're going to visualize yourself stepping into that library, that sacred space, right? Visualize it. It's such an important part of the process. Feel a sense of calm and openness, trust that you have been granted that access. Don't forget to ask your questions.
Very
Once,
important.
yeah, once inside, ask that question that you have already prepared in your mind. You can ask about specific events, relationships, life paths. Be clear, be very concise with your inquiries. Again, learn from me. That took me a minute to figure out. I have to be like so super specific. And receive your information. Be open to receiving the information in various forms. So it depends on where you're at in your development. You can get them as images, as words, as feelings, intuitive insights. Just trust that process. Take note of any impressions you receive. And that's pretty much the process of it. Now let's pretend like you've already done it and you're done. You're that feeling of being sucked out of it. Express your gratitude. Once you feel like the session is complete, thank your masters, your teachers, your loved ones for all the guidance, all the wisdom. Express gratitude. That helps in closing the session respectfully. And then you're going to close those records using a closing prayer or statement will help you signify the end of your session. So again, take what you will, throw out what you don't. This is just my recommendation. You can say, I thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the Akashic records for their assistance. I now close the records with gratitude and love. And then most importantly, you are going to ground the hell out of yourself. Ground yourself back into the present moment. Wiggle your fingers, your toes, take some deep breaths, open your eyes, reflect on the information you receive, how it applies to your life. and then you
Mhm.
can reflect and journal, just write down insights, messages, visions you received during your session. Reflect on how that information
Mhm.
resonates with you, how it can influence your decisions, your actions, and most importantly, apply the knowledge, you know?
Oh, right. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have
Oh, yeah.
anything else
I
that
think
would recommend, Krys?
not really. I think we're kind of on par with the process, but I do feel, when you take that time to journal, write everything down that you can and run through your senses of this is why I recommend like the chakra balancing guided meditation or do it yourself, because you're going to receive through your senses. And depending on, like Charlie said, where you are in your development, some may lean in stronger than others, but take the time to put your awareness to each of your senses and log it all down. It doesn't have to make, I tell people, it doesn't have to make sense
No.
when you're writing it down. Just write it all down. Take the time to go ground yourself, drink, hydrate, rehydrate, because you're expending a lot of energy to do this in the first place. So bring yourself back into the here and now, and then give yourself the time to sit with the information. How does it feel to you? How does it apply? What is coming up? In my experience, with myself and working with people with this, through that next week or two, your awareness is going to start shifting into
Mhm.
things that come up now, because once you become aware, you can't be unaware.
Yeah.
And you ask, so tried and true, you ask, you shall receive. So pay attention to what's showing up for you in that week, in that following week, after doing something like this.
Mhm.
And those are the moments where you're going to find great insight, connecting the dots, making new empowered choices to apply the insight that you got. It's not
Mhm.
going to be an overnight success. I know we all have that instant gratification thing, especially nowadays, but give yourself the time.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
I always say once I have explored this with someone or for someone, um, I always say you have now opened doorways in your mind. You can't
Mm-hmm.
close those. They're now open.
Right.
So there are times where information will continue to trickle from those
Mm-hmm.
doorways. You're not going crazy. You're not making it up. It is a real thing. It happens on a
Mm-hmm.
fairly consistent basis. So don't poo-poo it. Whatever is trickling through, take note.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend, because this is who I am. I'm the freaking journal queen, but if you saw how many journals I have, y'all would think that I need a freaking intervention. But like have a separate one that's just for Akashic.
Yeah.
You should have separate ones for all of your metaphysical workings. You know, it's so wonderful to look back, you know,
Mm-hmm.
2 years down the line, you can look back and go, wow, look at where I'm at now. Look at what an impact
Yeah.
this information had on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful
Oh,
guide.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, and I really truly feel like all of the the retarded amount of journals.
This is why I think we're connected, because I'm a my school of thought is the same.
Yeah,
I tell students and clients this too. Have a development journal, have a dream journal,
yeah,
have a personal journal, because it's just easier to keep it organized. And
yeah,
if you're wanting to reference back to something, I don't want to go through one big book and this try to flip through and
yep,
see where, you know so you have separate notebooks or journals for different areas. It's so fantastic.
it is.
um yeah.
And I wish like at the very beginning, I did not do that. I had like
Hmm.
everything, just whatever happened
All
day
in
to
one.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a point where I did want to access prior information, and I realized how completely crazy it was. And I am not exaggerating when I said there was like 86 journals at that time that
Hmm.
I wanted to go back, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is so I feel sorry for my kids when I die and they gotta box all that up and ship it out because I have specific stuff that's going to very specific
Hmm.
practitioners, you know. So I feel
Hmm.
sorry for them because they're gonna be like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
She's not even here, and she still left us a laundry list to do.
I do. I do. It's literally like right on my desktop. I have like a whole list of like, this, and everything's color
Hmm.
coded. So it'll be easier because I'm anal, I know, but
Yeah.
it'll be easy. Just look for the sticker and it goes in that box. It should be fairly simple, but it's a lot of
Hmm.
material to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think I wish that somebody would have told me earlier, have separate, designated fields, because one
Hmm.
day you're going to
Hmm.
be learning if you're anything like me, because I remember going, ooh, bright and shiny. I was like a squirrel in the
All the
metaphysical
time.
field.
Yeah. What's
Oh,
that?
that looks
Oh,
fun.
what's
Oh,
that?
what about this? And that's kind of how my journey was. I was attracted to this and then attracted to that, and then I would go back and visit this and get a deeper understanding and then go over here. So
Hmm.
if you have those, and trust me, if you have those all separated, you can go back and just continue on instead of
Hmm.
going, oh, I have no idea. I think I experienced that before, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And I say this just the same way I tell individuals even after just the healing session. You've you've opened the door, you opened yourself up for a session. So it's going to continue even after you leave me, because all I'm doing is holding the space. Spirit's going to continue the work and the progression on your path because you invited that in. You asked for that.
Right.
Seeking, you sought that out, And I feel like the Akashic is the same way, where you open that door, you sought that out, you asked for that. So, and I always say, man, all spirit is always just waiting for the green light, just waiting for that green light. Man, there's 0 to 100 when you when you are on board with anything. So
Hmm.
give yourself that time, and uh just keep in mind, every new awareness comes with, that power of choice that you have to make. You're going to continue to You can choose to apply that information that you received and adjust your life accordingly, or make
Right.
those changes, or you're going to just let it dwindle away, and that's never good for anybody.
Right.
uh,
Right.
Hard head makes a soft ass, so
Yeah.
just remember that.
Yeah. True,
But
true.
yeah, I think the Akashic Records is a fantastic modality and tool for anyone to utilize on their journey and on their path. It's great. And I
Hmm.
don't feel that just because others and as us as shaman do this on behalf of others, it doesn't mean that you are limited to not be able to do it for yourself. But, you
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
so yeah. Any final thoughts on this topic of the week?
No, just trust yourself, trust what you
Mm-hmm.
receive. Um, and remember that you're limitless. The only limitation you have is the one that you put on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we appreciate your presence and we appreciate your energetic exchange of liking and sharing and commenting. Or if you have any questions about this topic or any other ones that you want to hear discussed. And if this resonates with you or you know somebody, by all means, spread the love. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I guess until next time.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.